Tonight on CTV News, we're covering the vice presidential debate.
And then stick around, because we have information on Colorado wildfires and the Ascsu Senate meeting. All that and more on CTV News, starting now.
Good evening, Rams. I'm Westyn Hubbard.
And I'm Kenneth Frederick. Welcome to the Tuesday Night News Show. We have so much to tell you about tonight, so let's get right into it.
As of Wednesday, the Cameron Peak Fire has burned over 128,000 acres and is currently 42% contained. In total this year, over 500,000 acres of forest has been destroyed. The Pine Gulch Fire engulfed nearly 217 square miles of land, totaling 140,000 acres. Both fires were surpassed by the Mullen Fire, which has become the largest wildfire ever in Colorado, with over 160,000 acres scorched. With air quality being poor in northern Colorado, city and state officials urge residents to stay inside and to, if possible, exercise indoors.
Last night was the first and only vice presidential debate featuring Senator Kamala Harris and current Vice President Mike Pence. It may not have been as confrontational as the presidential debate 2 weeks ago, but it was still a tense debate.
This week's debate was hosted by USA Today's Washington bureau chief, Susan Page, in Salt Lake City. The debate was set up into 9 10-minute-long sections covering topics from the Supreme Court to COVID to the country's safety. The debate may have been more tame than the presidential one last week, but many topics sparked heated moments between the vice presidential candidates. Topics such as racial justice and the Green New Deal were some issues that Harris and Pence agreed they couldn't disagree more on. Coronavirus was one of the biggest topics of the night. Harris was attacking Pence and Trump's administration for withholding information of the virus back in January.
Can you imagine if you knew on January 28th, as opposed to March 13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare?
Pence defended the president by saying that Trump didn't want the public to worry about their safety. One big issue with the debate was question dodging by both candidates. Harris dodged questions around expanding the Supreme Court if Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed before the election. She wouldn't answer the question, only saying that her and Joe Biden believe the next president should fill the vacancy left by Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Pence also dodged questions asked by Page. When asked if he and Trump would commit to a peaceful transfer of power after the election, Pence said that he and Trump wouldn't have to worry about that.
Well, Susan, first and foremost, I think we're going to win this election.
There are 2 more scheduled debates between President Trump and former Vice President Biden before the election next month, although Trump announced this morning that he would not attend the next debate because he thought a virtual debate would be a waste of time.
As the election nears closer, we'll do our best to keep viewers updated and informed on all new information that we receive.
23 people have been indicted in a large-scale heroin trafficking ring in Denver. Last September, federal agents seized 33 kilos of heroin and $100,000 in cash. United States Attorney Jason Dunn's office, along with Denver Field Division of Drug Enforcement Agency, announced Wednesday that 23 people were indicted on 37 counts. The defendants face charges such as conspiracy to distribute and transport heroin, money laundering, and using phones involved with trafficking drugs.
Tuesday afternoon, Governor Jared Polis held a press conference to update Coloradoans about our situation with COVID. He even had a COVID test done on him while he was on stage. In many moments during the speech, he criticized the president, saying things like, "We don't all have the ability to have the same quality of care that the president does when he gets ill." But the conference also talked about the future for Colorado. Polis talked about transmission rates going down in people who are between the ages of 18 and 25, but increasing in older people. This is a trend that Polis said could not continue if we're going to keep hospitals from being overwhelmed.
Saliva tests are showing promising results for COVID testing. These tests could help Colorado State University increase testing capacities to 3,000 tests a day. The Saliva Direct tests recently used on students and staff are significantly cheaper and easily available in comparison to the current test. CSU has used 1,000 saliva tests with 5 positive results so far. Associate Professor Mark Zabel says that once they collect enough negative and positive tests to compare to the FDA's approved test, they can send them to the FDA emergency authorization approval. I do think it is really cool that we have this technology that is able to detect that stuff this fast now, which is crazy.
You know, I'm actually really grateful. I had to go get one of those tests a few weeks ago because my roommate started having a cough. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's really important that we're able to get these tests out so fast and so locally.
Everyone deserves to get their results as soon as they can. So,
2 COVID overflow sites are shutting down due to the lower hospitalization rates than predicted. 5 care sites were built around the state in April in case of the hospitals hitting a critical mass of patients. The sites that are closing are located in Grand Junction and at the Larimer County Fairgrounds and Events Complex in Loveland. The 2 temporary facilities have not seen any patients yet and are being closed in order to save the state money on their operating costs.
The ASCSU Senate is here and ready to change campus, but first came a big change to how they are doing their meetings. ASCSU still has work to get done, and they have to hold their meetings somehow. Due to coronavirus, however, that does put some complications on what they can do. What's going on, Rams? I'm here in the LSC, where a lot of you are probably used to having the ASCSU Senate meetings held. However, there has been a change, and we are here to update you on that change and show you the new way you can get your information from the ASCSU Senate. The members of ASCSU have taken to using Zoom as a way to still have their weekly meetings and therefore discuss important topics that they can. If you've been keeping up with ASCSU or CTV whatsoever, many of these faces may look familiar to you, such as newly elected president of ASCSU, Hannah Taylor, or newly elected Speaker of the Senate, Christian Dixon. However, there were other faces that were definitely recognizable, such as Senator Reyes and Senator Hill, people who ran against Dixon in his initial campaign for Speaker of the Senate, but now are part of the overall senators who make up the Senate as a whole. Despite the fact that they were opponents, they definitely are here together now to set a better example and have a common goal set forward for what they can accomplish in the Senate. Many important issues were discussed last night, most notably, though, who would be the Vice Speaker of the Senate. That role was voted on by the entirety of the Senate, and it fell into Tristan Reyes, Christian Dixon's previous opponent, now going to be his right-hand man within this entire year of ASCSU. Make sure you stay tuned every week to CTV so we can give you the updates on the ASCSU Senate and what happens during these meetings. Regardless of the circumstances, ASCSU is still finding ways to get their business done in whatever way they can.
U-Turn is an academic event that takes place every year here at CSU. The 2-day event is put on by the Institute of Learning and Teaching, or better known as TILT, on campus. The event is meant to be a turning point for students who are struggling during the year. There are 3 workshops that U-Turn will offer: study strategies, time management, and this year's new event, success in an online course. According to TILT's website, U-Turn is a helpful resource that boosts academic success on campus.
A Colorado man was attacked by an elk this last weekend. 41-year-old Zach Bornhoft was on his second-to-last hole at the beautiful Evergreen Golf Course when an aggressive bull elk, the Evergreen, charged him and his friend. They tried to get away in a golf cart, but Bornhoft was impaled on his backside by his right hip. The attack was so severe it sliced his kidney into 2. Unfortunately, with fall being elk's mating season, many of them are territorial and more aggressive. Thankfully, Bornhoft has a wife and 7 kids who are happy to hear that he will make a full recovery after this scary ordeal.
Anyone who's driven on College Avenue knows that traffic can be backed up for over a block at times. The drive-thru at Raising Cane's has been popular in Fort Collins for a long time as well. Sometimes that means they have drive-thru lanes that spill over onto College Avenue. The problem's only gotten worse with the pandemic and the closing of indoor dining options. To remedy this issue, Raising Cane's has asked the city for permission to extend their drive-thru into 2 lanes to keep cars off of College Avenue while they wait for their chicken. If this change is approved by the city, it'll mean a smoother experience for both Raising Cane's fans and Fort Collins city drivers alike.
So here's the deal. I used to work at Chick-fil-A, so it's kind of taboo for me to go to Raising Cane's.
But surely you've had Raising Cane's.
Oh, I have, but the thing is, it's my pleasure not to go there.
You can't say that. As a Fort Collins, resident, as well as a CSU student, it's just a staple.
I will admit the chicken and Texas toast do slap.
Absolutely.
This week's City Council meeting was one for the books, lasting a total of 7 hours.
Earlier this week, on October 5th, City Council had a 7-hour council meeting that ran until 1 in the morning. One of the main discussion topics was the 393-page budget recommended by the city manager. Many residents voiced their concerns, saying the budget was difficult to navigate and understand. City Council member Julie Pignataro explained, "It's $700 million. You can't put it in 2 pages, you can't put it in 20. It's something you keep improving." People from all over Fort Collins asked that the budget focus on areas such as finding a continuous source of funding for Parks and Rec, allocating resources towards legal representation for immigrants, cutting police funding, and preserving transportation. One council member brought up the projections for job reduction in the workforce. Chief Human Resources Officer in Fort Collins, Teresa Roche, said that there were no planned reductions under the current budget proposal. City Manager Darren Atterbury said over 600 employees were on furlough and that reducing workers wasn't a smart idea, seeing as they will be needed more and more once businesses and departments start to open back up. City Council's regular meetings are scheduled every first and third Tuesday of each month and start at 6 p.m., making the next one on October 20th. If you are interested in finding out more about the 2021 recommended budget, more information can be found on the City of Fort Collins website at fcgov.com.
Make sure to check out the Fort Collins City website to stay informed on what is happening.
Well, that concludes our news segment for tonight.
Make sure you stick around and see what's happening in entertainment with Angel Cooper up next.
Dad?
Just 1 minute, okay?
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back, Rams. I'm Angel Cooper, and I'm your entertainment anchor for Thursdays. We have a lot of entertainment news to talk about, so let's get started. School of Rock, and no, I'm not talking about Jack Black's School of Rock, but same name, is hosting its grand opening this Saturday on October 10th at Foothills Shopping Center in Midtown, Fort Collins. School of Rock focuses on classic rock rather than classic Beethoven. The open house will start at 10 in the morning and will end at 3 in the afternoon. The School of Rock will have tours, free trial lessons, and family activities. I'll be there this Saturday, so make sure you tune back next week to see how the grand opening went. Now, I don't know about you, but I love food. Ace Gillett's will be having happy hour. Their happy hour will be from 4 to 6 in the evening. You can either get their favorite Armstrong burger or Dynamite Tots. Oh, and get this, their Ruby So New cocktail and ice cold craft beer will be part of their happy hour. Ooh, so good! I can't wait to try their cocktails, especially after midterms. Fall has been looking a little different this year, but don't fret, there are still things to do. Osborne Farm has returned to Loveland, and they have been around since 1861. The farm has been bringing fall joy to people through vendors, hay rides, and barrel trains. Although they can't have these activities due to COVID regulations, they will have pumpkin picking, Indian corn, and coffee trucks will be there, but only on the weekends. No coffee means I can't go to the farm in the morning, but I'll be there. And let's go to films. Films have been my go-to since quarantine, and I just can't get enough of it. CSU Acts Human Rights Film Festival is having their 5th annual Fifth Festival online right now until the 10th. Act Human Rights Film Festival is back for their 5th year in a row, touching the hearts and intriguing the minds of the audience members in a slightly different way than normal.
We can't open the theater spaces enough to actually meet the needs of our community. And so virtual right now, just for public health and for safety as well as for access, is the best bet.
Usually, the film festival is here in the Laurie Student Center Theater, but due to COVID, the film festival will be virtually online. All volunteers and employees will be working on the film festival in the comfort of their own home.
The pandemic really showed the fissures in our society in the United States as well as globally, and showed the unequal effects. Not that the injustice wasn't there before, it just suddenly was much more apparent when the whole world was in crisis.
As of right now, filmmakers are not letting COVID-19 stop them from making films.
Most of the filmmakers I talked to are creatively working in ways that are just innovative and impressive and overcoming.
Beyond following coronavirus regulations, some filmmakers ran into other issues while filming their stories.
Many deep kind of struggles, but I think one of the most important ones was convincing the ladies in the film to be filmed.
Having the film festival be online helped increase their audience.
People care enough to dig into the content and really engage with human rights and social justice content right now is probably my favorite part.
Talking to someone in charge of the CSU Human Rights Film Festival was very educating and made me more invested in the festival. I might just want to create a film and send it their way. Welcome to What's the Hype, where I'll be filling you in on what's popping on social media. In the music world, J Balvin, a reggaeton singer, will be partnering up with McDonald's. The singer told Hypebeast from his home in Medellin, "I've been a fan of McDonald's since I was a kid. When I was in a kid group in Colombia, we didn't have McDonald's until later, so when I visited the United States, it was always the first thing we gotta go to McDonald's. And I get my usual Big Mac, Oreo McFlurry, and medium fries with ketchup." Balvin's meal will consist of a Big Mac without pickles, medium fries, and an Oreo McFlurry. Ooh, so good. You can grab J Balvin's McDonald's meal now until November 1st. Now, let's talk about reality shows. Love Island Season 2 ended last week on Wednesday. After surviving a month of dumpings, recoupling, and Castle More, America chose their favorite couple out of the Final Four to win $100,000. The final four couples were Justine and Caleb, Sally and Johnny, Laurel and Keratin, and Maura and Calvin. America chose Justine and Caleb. Congratulations to Caleb. And Justine and Caleb didn't hesitate to take home $50,000 each. They were the first black couple to win on Love Island. Just wow. I could use that money for student loans. Just saying. Now, let's talk about movies. Netflix announced it will release a series about life of Selena Quintanilla. The actress that will be playing her will be Kristen Cetris, who played the leading role, The Walking Dead. The series will be about Selena's childhood and how she rose to fame. Part 1 will only consist of 6 one-hour episodes. I'm kind of curious to see how the Selena series will be different from the Selena movie. Either way, I'm excited to see the series. The release date for the Selena series will be on December 4th. Well, Rams, that's all the entertainment news that I got for you tonight. But don't go anywhere because Janey Moran has some exciting news for people who love the cold. Janey, what can Rams expect?
That's right, Angel. This will be the last week that we will be seeing warm temperatures. However, next week, we will be seeing temperatures drop. Stay tuned after the break.
So there you are, shuffling through a stack of resumes and you come to mine. This is it. First impression. My way in. But here's the thing. Can my resume show you how I truly stand out? Can one piece of paper really tell you my whole story? Like that I was studying, going to night school while working 2 jobs just to help my parents pay for groceries. Or how anytime there was an opportunity, I was the first one to step up. Because I wasn't gonna let my life, my circumstances dictate who I was gonna become. And all of that determination, the commitment, the drive, that's me. And that's something you just can't put on paper. Look beyond the resume, discover new ways to develop great talent, like me.
Welcome back from the break, Rams. I am Janey Moran here with the weather report. Let's go ahead and take a look at our current conditions. Right now we are at 77 degrees. We do have an alert for poor air quality, which does cause the hazy moonlight, but we have mild winds at 5 miles per hour. Now, what was it like today on campus? Today on campus, it was beautiful outside. We did have very warm temperatures, and students were not wearing sweaters today, which was very nice to get around and walk around and get to class. However, we do see leaves falling now, so it looks beautiful outside. The leaves are starting to change colors, and it is perfect weather to take pictures outside with your friends. Now let's go ahead and take a look at our overnight lows. For our overnight lows along our I-25 corridor, in Fort Collins, we will be at 51. We do have higher temperatures this week for overnight. Denver at 57, Colorado Springs at 54, and then Pueblo at 52. Along our mountainside here, Grand Junction will be our highest at 48. And then along our eastern side, Sterling at 41, and then Lamar at 46. So maybe for tonight, you can turn off your heater. Now for tomorrow's highs, we will be expecting in the 80s along our front range here. So Denver at 85, Colorado Springs at 82, and then Pueblo at 89. In our mountainside here, Grand Junction at 82, which is our highest. And then along our eastern side here, Burlington, our highest at 92, Lamar 93 as well, which will be very warm. However, I would encourage you to enjoy it as much as you can because this will be the last week we will be seeing these high temperatures. Now for tomorrow's forecast in Fort Collins, we have a high of 85 with a low of 48. We will be seeing sunshine and clouds, and then winds very mild, 6 miles per hour heading southwest. And then if you are an early riser and like to beat the sunrise up, it will be at 7:05. And then the sunset at 6:28, Now for our 5-day forecast, it looks like, again, Friday, we will be at 85 with a low of 48. Saturday, we will be mostly sunny with a high of 83 and a low of 52. Sunday, going back down to 71 with a low of 40. And then Monday, we are dropping to our 60s at 65 with a low of 40, but it will still be sunny. And then Tuesday, again, back up to 72 and a low of 42. Well, Rams, that is all we have for the weather. But don't go away just yet. Stick around to hear what is happening in sports with Brendon Fairbairn. Find out what the CSU football schedule will look like after the break.
Awkward. Do I look familiar? I should. You might remember me from here. Here. Or maybe even here.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
It can actually be a perfect moment to reach out to a friend and ask if they're okay if they seem down.
Doesn't matter how you say it.
You all right?
Everything's okay?
All G?
You all right, girl?
Oh,
You cool?
you bugging dog.
Just show you're there for them.
Go on, Kelly. Susie Awkward.
Hey, you haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
Welcome back from the break, Rams, into your Thursday night sports show, The Blitz. Hosted by yours truly, Brendon Fairbairn. CSU's new 8-game conference football schedule is getting closer and closer, and the MLB playoffs are starting to heat up in the second round. With this being said, I have a lot of sports action to cover for you all tonight, so let's jump right in. The 2020 season will mark the first time the Rams have had an 8-game regular season schedule since the team's return following World War II in 1945. Erica and Rachel covered CSU's home game this season on Monday night, so I thought it would be fun to pick off where they left off and cover the Rams away game for this unique conference-only slate. Starting the traveling off in Week 2, the Rams make the over 1,000-mile trip west to Fresno, California to play the Fresno State Bulldogs for their first away game of the season. The Rams beat the Bulldogs last year to a score of 41-31. CSU's quarterback Patrick O'Brien's dominant aerial showing with 322 passing yards and 2 touchdowns through the air, and running back Marcus McElroy's 117 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground carried the Rams to an offensive clinic of a game, with over 500 total yards of offense and ultimately a comfortable victory over the Bulldogs. If CSU wants to have a similar result in Week 2 of this year, they need to go back to the same formula, relying on the arm of Patrick O'Brien to open up the box for McElroy to find some room on the ground and pave the way for a balanced offensive attack. For the Rams defense, they need to contain the Mountain West leader in rushing touchdowns from last year, Ronnie Rivers, who absolutely torched the Rams defense in last year's matchup for 146 yards and 2 touchdowns. Moving to Week 4 now, the Rams will take a tough trip up north to Boise, Idaho to take on the 2019 Mountain West champions and perennial conference powerhouse, Boise State. Last year, the 20th ranked Broncos hung on to beat the Rams on Senior Day at Canvas Stadium, 31-24. The Broncos were led by a 3-touchdown performance from quarterback Jalen Henderson. For the Rams, their top performer on the offensive side was star tight end Trey McBride, who had over 100 yards receiving and a touchdown on the afternoon. Boise State will look a lot different on offense this year with the departure of last year's co-offensive coordinator Zach Hill for Arizona State and the promotion of quarterbacks coach Eric Csu to fill the position, as well as the return of sophomore quarterback Hank Backmeyer, who was injured for last year's meeting. The Rams offense, a unit that was ranked 3rd in total offense in the Mountain West, last year will have to fire on all cylinders to compete with the Broncos defense that ranked 2nd out of all teams in the conference just a season ago. Now let's head closer to home for CSU's Week 6 matchup. The Rams won't have to travel far to play their rivals, the Air Force Falcons, down just in Colorado Springs. Last season, Air Force won the Ram Falcon Trophy for the 4th year in a row by a score of 38-21, running their triple option offense to perfection. The Rams defense struggled to contain Falcons quarterback Donald Hammond, who finished the November night with 4 total touchdowns. Rams QB Patrick O'Brien had a pretty good game through the air with 2 touchdowns and over 300 yards passing, of course besides the game-sealing pick 6 at the goal line with just a minute left in the game. With CSU's star receiver Warren Jackson opting out of the season, the Rams will have to rely on pass catchers Trey McBride, Dante Wright, and Nate Craig Myers to control the pace of the game against the Falcons, whose defense allowed the 8th most yards per game in the Mountain West play last season. Luckily for the Rams, they shouldn't have to worry about Hammond tearing them up again this year because the Falcons are making a change at signal caller, looking to start junior Brian Warren at quarterback. For CSU's 4th and final away game of the season, they travel back to California to play the San Diego Aztecs for their 2nd straight game on the road. Last year, the Aztecs beat the Rams 24-10, dominating on both sides of the line and holding the Rams to their lowest scoring game of the season. Even though the Rams held the Mountain West's best pass defense in yards per game last year, they still struggled in terms of passing touchdowns allowed to opposing receivers, giving up 12 passing scores throughout the 2019 slate. San Diego State was no exception. Aztecs quarterback Ryan Agnew had a productive night, throwing for 3 touchdowns, while the Rams only had 1 touchdown the entire game, coming when the game was already way out of hand in the 4th quarter. This season, the Rams will need to rely on balance on both sides of the ball and keep San Diego State's phenomenal defense guessing. Last year, the Aztecs had a defense that ranked even higher than the conference champions, finishing 2019 as a conference #1 total rated defensive unit. Even with this amazing group, San Diego State's offense stands as the absolute opposite, ranked as the Mountain West's worst offense. This could easily be a low-scoring battle where the offense that makes the least amount of mistakes come out on top. Csu football is still 2 weeks away, but the MLB playoffs are already in full swing with only 8 teams remaining in the postseason's 2nd round. For Contender or Pretender, this week, let's take a look at the ALS top team, the Tampa Bay Rays, who finished the regular season with a stellar 40-20 record. Despite the successful season so far, the question still remains with only 1 World Series appearance coming back from 2008. Can the Tampa Bay Rays take home their first World Series? Well, let's take a look. Let's look at hitting, the first thing that they don't do the best. There is no question the Rays have been struggling with their hitting all season long. They'd even place in the top 10 teams in runs, hits, home runs, RBIs, and hitting average in 2020. A very, very rare stat to see from one of the MLB's frontrunners. Tampa Bay's only bright spot on offense is second baseman Brandon Lowe, and you can argue his play hasn't been great either. Lowe on the season had 36 runs, 30th in the league, 52 hits, 70th in the league, 14 home runs, 18th in the league, 37 RBIs, 26th in the league, and a 0.269 batting average that was 59th in the league. Moving on to pitching. Making up for their offensive woes, pitching was the main reason the Rays were able to clinch the first seed in the ALS. Tampa Bay was third in the league in terms of earned run average with 3.56, 14th in hits allowed at 475, and 6th in both home runs allowed at 70 and total strikeouts at 552. The Rays' effective pitching is led by pitching trio Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell, and Charlie Morton. Between the three pitchers, they have a 4.02 earned run average and a .235 batting average against them. You can argue they are one of the best pitching duos in the league. It's obvious to say the Rays aren't the most balanced and well-rounded teams in the MLB. Average hitting and inconsistent pitching isn't a formula to win a World Series. Tampa Bay can't expect to rely on Lowe and Glasnow to take them to the promised land. I could see the Rays beating the Yankees in the ALS due to having New York's number in the regular season, winning 8 out of 10 times they played. This might be hard for diehard baseball fans to hear, but I truly feel the Houston Astros, despite their past, will represent the American League in the World Series, eliminating the Rays in the LCS. I'm sorry, Tampa fans, but the Rays are pretenders in my book. But hey, at least you still have the TB12 and the Bucks, right? Well, Rams fans, that's all the sports action I have for tonight. Make sure to tune in next Thursday for my thoughts on the new NBA champion. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you on Monday for CTV Sports.